I am Darlene Nolan, the Jasper County Historical Museum Director. It is my pleasure to welcome you and to view the forthcoming tour of our museum. We are a museum that you will find to be totally eclectic, filled with many, many family history and memories, the Texas history and military, and just a vast array of collections. We encourage the students and the children and families to come into our museum. You will find a lot of memories, but mostly I think you'll be amazed and pleased with the vast selections of collections we have here. I can't not say about our first donation that was given to the museum, and it is the beautiful collection of the Ramona Henderson's China painting collection for the museum. You will find paintings, portraits, memorabilia, but mostly a lot of just great conversation and a great time for your family. We are not supported by any government entity. We survive on fundraisers and donations of our citizens. There is no charge to come through our museum. It is done by donations as your choice. So please take the opportunity to come. It will be a memorable event, and I promise you that the volunteers here and the board here will welcome you, and that you will leave here saying it was a very good thing to visit the Jasper County Historical Museum.
We're quite proud of our military exhibit. Some of the items that we have today is an authentic World War I complete doughboy uniform on loan to us by a local citizen. A complete World War II issue infantryman uniform complete with hand grenades. A World War II flight officer's uniform, sheepskin for high altitude temperature control. We also have a uniform from the modern period in Afghanistan and Iraq. Also, we have in the museum on display a complete set of medals that were earned by Audie Murphy. They're not his personal medals, but they're all authentic. And of those medals, one is the Medal of Honor. There's 4 of those currently on loan from the military in Jasper, Texas. Is fortunate to have one of those.
The museum has an excellent NASA exhibit centered around an actual lunar rock from Apollo 15. It also has some very good chronology charts that show the history of the Apollo flights, starting with Apollo 11, the first flight around the moon, and Apollo 11, the first moon landing. It has some good examples of the actual mechanical devices that the crews used to go to the moon in the days when computers were very, very basic. There were mechanical devices like the checklist that they used to operate the spacecraft, and the timeline that told them when to do things were actual paper copies produced with typewriters, not with computer devices. There's some excellent examples of some of the spectacular views that the crews had, photos of the Earth as seen from the moon's lunar surface.
This is Joe Tonnahill's office. Joe Tonnahill was a very popular, famous, and accomplished attorney in Texas. His claim to fame, where most people know him from, was when Lee Harvey Oswald, accused assassin of John Kennedy, was being transported. He was shot by Jack Ruby. In the American judicial system, someone is allowed to have an attorney, and in this case, Joe Tonnahill stepped forward and became the attorney who shot the man who shot the president. This is his office, complete with his personal items in it. His family took a photograph of the office after he passed. brought the items to the Jasper Museum and replaced the items exactly as they were originally. If Big Joe was alive today, he could come into the office and he would recognize the equipment on his desk and some of the work that was still waiting for him to complete laying on his desk.
In the 1950s and 60s, and even earlier, there was a black baseball team in Jasper known as the Jasper Steers. In one summer, a 17-year-old was hired by Elmer Simmon, the owner of the Steers, to travel with them all over the United States and Canada in exhibition games. Candy Reisenhoover, or C.C. Reisenhoover was his name, and there's a book which he has written on a fiction, of historical fiction, of that trip that summer called White Heat, or the name was changed to Outside the Lines.
We're quite proud of our diorama of the Alamo as it would have been in 1836 at the Battle of the Alamo. The Alamo is not to scale. This area would have been twice as big. It was about 4 acres. In the modern period, the mission still exists, the long barracks still exists, the oak tree and the well still exists. But at the time of the Battle of the Alamo, most of the defenders within the Alamo were Texas citizens, and they were also citizens of Mexico. A lot of people think of them as Americans. They were not. They also think that it was predominantly white men fighting brown men outside Alamo. That also is not correct. There was a contingency of what would be considered Mexican Americans today, or Mexicans, that fought in the Alamo and perished.
On top of the case, you'll see one of the oldest weapons ever recorded, 15,000 years old in France and Spain. This is a replica of that artifact, which is called an atlatl. It was used to kill mammoths and other large animals. And when the bow and arrow was invented later, the smaller points, projectile points, were designed, and you can see there are various designs of those depending on the tribes, and there are various names for those.